le first pilot stand. On a 3 minutes. Wir werden übrigens gerade gefilmt, also kannst du jetzt mal in die Kamera lächeln, wenn du möchtest.
Bob on track.
Good morning and welcome to Laplagne in France, the final day of sliding, second race weekend of the BMW IBSF Bobsleigh and Skeleton World Cup. And for our competitors this morning in women's bobsleigh, it's actually their first race weekend. This is the track that hosted the 1992 Winter Games in Albertville's sliding disciplines, bobsleigh, skeleton and luge, and they are still plying their trade here some quarter of a century later. Nearly half a century later, actually. So let's take a look at this track. Well, 1,500 meters. 19 corners, and that makes it very busy indeed. It makes it a real driver's track, in fact. Some very short straights and some very easy places to lose time. One of which is at the start, long, very flat, very long, loading late as the drive lines run out. It bottlenecks very quickly into turn 1, easy to hit the wall, easy to skid through 1 and 2, and down into turn 3. Again, not much pressure going on there. Turn 4, the first big right-hander, picking up speed now, down into the little dink that is turn 5, easy to skid down there into 6. Pressure in a bit, control that well. Then this fast labyrinth, 7, 8, 9, 10, and out of corner 10, down through 11. Again, corner 12, big double pressure corner. You can actually see the sled going up and down. Out of 13 and 14. And then one of the key corners coming up here, from 15 into corner 16. There's corner 16. Oh, and there's corner 16 again. Corner 17, and now we start to go uphill out of 18. Little straight uphill into 19, still climbing through 19 and climbing up to the finish line there. And that is where time can really go away. If you get 16 wrong, you still look great at the split after 16, but you can die a death before you get to the finish line. Well, the last time we raced here was back in 2020. Before that, 2015. Before that, 2012. So it's been an irregular appearance for this track on the World Cup. I've got to say, this year, the German bobsleigh women are not having any fun at all, are they? I mean, quite bonkers. In a very good way, in a very good way. You have to be a bit bonkers to do this, don't you? Well, after some very bitter overnight temperatures during the week, it rained yesterday evening. That then turned into snow, and it's just kind of hovering below freezing. As Kaillie Love makes her World Cup debut today in the women's bob, made her Monobob debut yesterday. She won. Melanie Hassler there, also a first-time medalist with the silver. Andrea Greku of Romania took the bronze. So all 3 podium finishers yesterday in the women's monobob were first-time medalists. Will that happen again? Less likely. Kaillie sets us off, followed by Chiara Andreucci of Italy, Brianna Walker of Australia, then Melanie Hassler. There's our other medalist from yesterday, Andrea Greku. Local heroine, Margot Boch. She will be one that the fans will be looking for. First race of the season for the women's bobsleigh monobob. Gold medalist Kaillie Love, the 26-year-old, makes her World Cup debut as a driver, as does Azaria Hill, her 25-year-old brakewoman. Azaria has had just 1 bobsleigh race in her life, and that was a gold medal winning race with Kaillie in Lake Placid in North America's Cup last month. Not getting any data on our timing screens, but you can see it on your screen there at the moment. So she is setting the pace that everybody else will be judged by. And for a first-time World Cup driver yesterday, she produced 2 really outstanding runs. She was absolutely astonished with the result, could not believe what had happened. But she started fast and she drove cleanly. And this is a track where all of the cards got shuffled up a little bit because there's very few drivers who are really intimately familiar with it. Little tap there coming early out of 16, little tap out of 17 into 18, out of 19 across the line, 61.35. Okay, well, the only judgment I've got is the track record is 60.67. That was set by the winner, Lara Nolte, in January's race in 2020. So, welcome to the World Cup, Azaria Hill, and welcome to the Women's Bobsleigh World Cup, Kaillie Love. That was that early exit, pulling it down a little too early out of 16, then rattled the wall as well out of 18 up into 19. And that takes speed out of the sled that you can ill afford to lose at that stage. So maybe a very slight hold though. We're ready to go again. 6:42 was their start. Start record is 6:35. Next up, Giada Andreuti and Tania Vicenzino. Last time we were here, Tania, the brake woman, was driving. Giada Andreuti in her 12th drive now as a driver for Italy. Made her debut in January 2020 in Winterberg, and the two of them were sort of alternating, sometimes both driving, sometimes one pushing for the other. It sort of settled on Giada driving and Tania being the brake woman. 6.95 is the getaway. That's going to leave them in a little bit of a hole. Best results for the driver, Giada Andreuti, 10th place finish in Innsbruck in her debut season, 2020. We go to Innsbruck next week, a track that almost everybody knows a lot better than this one. Second best speed out of our two sleds, which is a second back already. And for a lot of drivers coming here to Laplagne, it is a case of getting down in one piece, no damage to sled or crew. And you might think, well, that doesn't really show much competitive spirit, but actually, sometimes you have to cut your cloth, don't you? Across the line they come, 62, 69. And I guarantee, although the coaches might be going, don't take any risks, don't be silly, you know, we've got to survive this, it's the first race of a long season. Guarantee that they will all be trying as hard as they can to be quicker than their last run. Again, top of the track, little rub on the wall. That's coming out of corner 4 where the second loose start comes in. And all that takes speed out of the sled. And a double pressure, big corners, corner 10, 12, 16 especially. Really work hard on the athletes. Start areas at 1,800 meters above sea level. This is a hard place to produce speed out of the body. Next up, Brianna Walker. Her first ever bobsleigh race was on this track 6 years ago in Europe Cup. She's come a long way since then. This is her 18th World Cup start, never mind all the EC races she's done. And Kira Radinkia is back on the sled. 7th World Cup race for Kira. 6.53. And Brie finished tied for 5th place yesterday. Final few sleds slipped out of the medals. She was up in 5th equal, tied with Lara Nolte. So in good company, but both, I'm sure, were disappointed not to take a medal after good first runs. Brie Walker's 22 podium finishes in Monobob, 12 wins in Monobob. She would have loved to have added a World Cup gold medal to that. Wasn't happening. 3600s back behind Kaillie Love, and again, Kaillie Love really laying down a storming run. It's going to be very interesting when we see the likes of former winner here, Lara Nolte and Alana Myers-Taylor, Kim Kalicki, what they've got in the locker. 61.84 for Brianna Walker, puts her in 2nd place at the moment. Her best ever women's bob result in World Cup racing, 5th place in Winterberg in January of this year. That's where we go for the World Champs next year, or in 24, so February. And look here in 16, the big double pressure, allowing the sled to rise and fall. You have to judge it on the corner itself. And here her coach, Pierre Luders, will be extremely useful, saying, okay, either let it go, let it rise and fall, or hold it, you know, halfway up. Next up, Melanie Hassler for Switzerland. She's got Mara Morel behind her. Mara making her first start with Melanie. She was previously, in her previous 4 races, brakewoman for Martina Fonteneve. Silver medalist yesterday, Melanie Hassler, her first medal in Monobob. She's been a silver medalist in women's bobsleigh as well. 6.50, that's a pretty quick getaway as well. Again, 6.42 for Kaillie Love and Azaria Hill. They've set the benchmark so far. Kaillie Love coming in as a former brakewoman. who after the Olympic Games was learning to drive, racing in North America's Cup when she could, Europe Cup when she could, and also braking for Kaillie Humphries for the last 2 years, very successfully. So Keisha has got really, really limited experience as a driver, but clearly takes to it like a duck to water. Melanie Hassler still 1400s back. Gap's not growing, and that's good news. Swiss led with decent speed down the bottom. Keisha Love, she's matching her for pace, equal fastest. Melanie Hassler put a little skip there, 18 to 19. That's not going to close the gap. 2/10 back at the line, 61.55. That was a nice looking drive from Melanie Hassler. And she's a good benchmark against which to judge. Melanie and Mara Morel, their first start together in World Cup. Again, less rise and fall, so she's taking a different approach there, not letting it take the first pressure so much, not come down so much, so just guiding the sled a little more. Brianna Walker, we saw, letting it have its head. And again, look, she's a slightly taller athlete, leaning to one side to look around the peak of the sled. There's Mara on the right, Mel on the left. They look very happy, don't they? So they should. Now then, Lisa Buchwitz, World Championship silver medalist in women's bobsleigh. Finished 7th in the Monobob yesterday. Vanessa Mark behind her 7th World Cup start. Her last was January in Sigulda. And Lisa Buchwitz, 1 gold, 1 silver as a driver. Highly decorated brakewoman before she started driving after the Olympic Games in Beijing. Gold medalist with Mariama Yamanka in 2018. Little tap there. Well, even this duo didn't match Love and Azaria and Love and Hill for the start. So Buchwitz in the red as she sat down by just 500. She's limiting the damage. It's a very good run. Fastest of all, 105.9, tied with Keisha Love. So the FES sleds used exclusively by the Germans. In the Monobob races yesterday, everybody has exactly the same sled. You can use different runners. They still have to be legal within the regulations, but the sled's the same here. 1200s back, 61.47. Here, each of the teams have the option of buying a customer sled, or like the Germans, having a federation which has a company like FES building sleds for them. FES build sleds for the men and for the women, and also they are building their skeleton sleds. Well, Lisa Buchwitz, Vanessa Mark looking very happy with that. Vanessa Mark's been very much in and out of the German team. Great woman, she made her debut in Lake Placid in December 2019. And the last of her 6 World Cup starts was in January 22 in Sigulda. So good to see her back and smiling and fit and healthy as well. Next up, Bianca Ribby. Keisha Love of the USA is our current leader. Bianca with her regular brakewoman, Niamh Hockey behind her. Niamh in her 8th World Cup start. Bianca in her 7th as a driver after making 1 World Cup race start in Altenburg 2019, braking for Alicia Rissling. Not had a podium yet, but 4th place in Lake Placid in the beginning of last season, her best result. So she's really been knocking on the door a couple of times. 6.60 start leaves her again at a deficit. 1800s behind at the start. Nice hike there. Bianca finished 10th in the Monobob race yesterday. This is her first time at this track. Keeping it nice and straight on the exits. Some good looking exits, but maybe that just means that she's having to steer a little too much. Now over half a second back. Currently dropping behind Brianna Walker. 4th best speed, but a little tap there as well. Should be 5th place at the line. It is 7200s back with a 62.07. Brianna Walker is 4900s back, so nearly a quarter of a second behind her for Bianca Ribby. 15 sleds in our field this morning. What is turning into quite a crisp day here. A little bit of a crackle to the snow. Still not quite above freezing. Little tap there, gets nudged away at 9:10 transition. Really hard to get that lined up neatly. Little tap there as well out of 18 on the run up to 19. Taking a tad more speed out of the sled. 7th of our sleds today, Kim Kalicki and Laplagne Fiebig. These are our world champions. Kalicki, her 25th World Cup start. She has 21 medals. Laplagne Fiebig had her first bronze medal here, her first ever World Cup medal here in 2020 with Stephanie Schneider. She has never been off the podium in any World Cup race since. That's astonishing. 6:49 getaway, here we go. Now we're starting to see the big guns coming out. So Kim Kalicki, Laplagne Fiebig, great starting from them. Kim Kalicki, this is her 25th race. In 24 previous races, she's got 21 medals, 2 fourths and a 6th. She is right at the top of her game all the time. 700s back at the start, 400s down, 200s down, 0.2 of a kilometre an hour quicker than Kaillie Love. She'll take the lead in the next split if she's clean, or she doesn't. Kaillie Love, 122.3 at the bottom. Has Kalicki got what it takes? 100th in it. This is going to be a fantastic run to the finish. Nice and clean, leaning her head over to one side, getting out of the slipstream. Tucks her head, 100th at the line. That's why you duck your head. That's why you duck your head. 61.34. So outstarted by 700s, but grabs it at the line by 100th of a second. Fantastic stuff from Kim Kalicki and Laplagne Fiebig. Good strong start, good velocity as well. And Fiebig from Cologne giving her real impetus at the start. Kalicki's no slouch either on the front handles. It works really well together, this combination. Well, Laplagne on the right-hand side, never off the podium in a World Cup race since the last time we were here. That was her 2nd ever World Cup start. She got a bronze medal. Cynthia Appia now with Leah Walkenden behind her. Leah making her 6th start. Cynthia Appia, her 17th as a driver after 13 races as a brakewoman. She actually won on her debut with Kaillie Humphries back in Whistler 2016. So it's a good introduction to bobsleigh for Cynthia Appia. 6:51. Again, hasn't raced here before in her career. And a pair of 6th place finishes, her best results in women's bobsleigh over the last couple of seasons. Finished a slightly deflated 9th place in yesterday's Monobob race. Oh, big hit and a skid. That's going to take a lot of speed out of the sled. We saw one sled, I can't remember now who, getting very sideways. Might have been Linda Gaszewski, the Polish sled, yesterday in the same place. And boy, that's like putting the brakes on. You put skates sideways to slow down, you put skis sideways to slow down, and when you put our runners sideways, even though they're highly polished and rounded in profile, you still slow down. 9400s back. It was a pretty loose run, 62.28 from Cynthia Appia. She's ahead of Andrea Greku, but shakes her head there. She felt every single one of those mistakes and a whole bunch more that I haven't picked up with my eyes and you probably didn't see either. Driver knows everything. Let's take a look here. Comes down early, hits the wall on the inside, which is a shock in itself, and that puts on the brakes. Then a big skid, hits the wall on the outside as well. Tap here, big skid again. Yeah, all of that sideways. It's not going forward. Now, that sounds like a silly thing to say, but going forward is important on a straight. Now then, the local heroine, our Europe Cup champion last year, Margot Boch with Kaillie Humphries. Margot finished 6th in the monos yesterday. This is her 11th World Cup start. Her debut was here, unsurprisingly, in February 2020. She finished 6th. They're not twins, they're not sisters, they're not related. They're just both blue-eyed blonde French girls. Kaillie Humphries behind her in her 7th start. Tucks in, gets down. 6.62. So Margot has a lot of work to do. Now, I said most drivers in the field don't know this track well. Margot obviously does. I said yesterday that the mayor here is her dad. It's not, it's her uncle, but she has been born, grew up here, and has spent all of her learning time at this track. She does know how to get down here. 1300s back at the start. That's still adding to her deficit, 27 to 3400s back. She's only got the 5th best speed. She really needs to find something magical at the moment. She's almost stopped losing ground. If she can get another top 6 out of this, that would be a great result. 5th best speed. This is going to be 6th at the line, but there's 2 or 3 really good drivers still to come. Ducks ahead, 5th at the line, 61.80. You saw there Bruno Mijon, the French Olympic bronze medalist in 4-man from Nagano 98. Real driving legend Bruno Mijon, coaching the French and the Monegasques, along with Max Robert. So 5th place at the line, 400s ahead of Brianna Walker. Margot, Kaillie Humphries, that long power stride right at the end as she loads. Again, just allowing the sled to rise and fall a little. Checks it as it starts to climb in the second pressure in 16. 16's a funny looking corner. In car racing, it would definitely be a double apex corner. It's 2 corners nailed together. Next up, our bronze medalist yesterday, Andrea Greku. Theodora Vlad, her brakewoman, also racing in Europe Cup in women's bobsled. She's learning to drive as well. 14 start as a brakewoman for Theodora. Ooh, Andrea struggled to get in a little, but luckily as they came out of the drive lines, the sled was still going straight. Best result in women's bob for Andrea Greku. Silver medal, 200s off gold in Sigulda 2020, and that was the European Championships, where Nadezhda Sergeva of Russia claimed the gold, and Andrea Greku took the European silver. And the bulk of the European Championships will again be in Sigulda this year, so women's bob European champs will be in Sigulda. 4-man bobsleigh European Championships will be next weekend in Innsbruck. Nice looking run from 9th at the start up to 7th place. There's a little more speed out of this sled. Oh, a little tap and a skid there. I think it's going to be 7th at the line, hanging around with Bianca Rivi, no, ahead of Bianca Rivi, and actually 100th behind Brianna Walker. There's Paul Niagu. He's been instrumental in running this Romanian team for many years. His son actually drove in World Cup a handful of occasions for Romania. And he's kept this team going from his base in Winterberg. That's where the World Championships are. Runs a chiropractic clinic there as well. Now let's take a look at the start. Former brakewoman Andrea Greku. She's got good speed, but just gets hooked up. Doesn't quite vault the hurdle of the edge of the sled. And she can get in. Well, there you go, there's Andrea. Theodora on the right-hand side. Wonder how long it is before we'll see Theodora racing in the World Cup as a driver. Kim Kalicki leads from Keisha Love and Lisa Buchwitz, 10 down, 5 to go. Final 5 sleds, first heat of the Women's World Cup here. Yingqing of China. And Wang Yu making her 5th World Cup start as a brake woman. 20th World Cup start for Yingqing. That's a little bit of a landmark. Of course, they didn't leave China, any of the Chinese athletes, in the 2 COVID seasons. Otherwise, she'd probably have started 35 or so races by now. It is her 20th World Cup start. The first was in Calgary in 2019 in the February races there. All the Chinese athletes had learned their craft, racing plank sleds and then articulated sleds like these in North America for about 18 months, with Pierre Luders and Manny Mahata coaching them. And they all made their debut in Calgary, a track they knew well. Ying, 9th at the start, out driving the getaway though, up to 7th on the splits. This is looking nice and clean, good speed, 5th best speed. This is excellent stuff from Yingqing. Really nice looking run from the Chinese driver. Well, slipped away a little bit at the bottom down to 8th place. 61.91. So that leaves her 600s behind Andrea Greku, 700s behind 6th place Brianna Walker, and that's how close it was. So one tiny little skid, and that cost her a couple of places. Again, looking here at the double pressure. Watch the runner tips. No big steering input there. That means she's trusting her line. Comes out of 18, nice and square to 19, just leaning the sled over a little bit in the corner to hold it on the line. It's a little bit like racing motorcycles. You can use body weight. You do use body weight. Now then, Lara Nolte, our Olympic champion. Her first win here, was here in 2020. That was her 2nd ever World Cup start. She took bronze the week before. Won here, the first of 11 wins. The first of 19 medals in 26 races so far. Behind Anela Skelton, making her 7th World Cup start. She's got 3 wins and a silver medal under her belt from those. 400s back at the start, 6:53. That's very competitive indeed. Now the Olympic champion had a very disappointing Women's Bob World Championships in St. Moritz. She will definitely be looking to right that wrong when we get to the World Championships in Winterberg in the spring. Apologies. Good looking run so far, right in the frame. Top 2 are covered by 1/100th of a second. She's closing from 800s to 700s. No panic. She's so calm, this woman. Cross the line, 500s in front. 61.29. Does it again. She won here in 2020. We do have a previous winner in the field as well, yet to come. Is that what they call a teaser? I think so. Look at this. She's just so on top of her game. She and Kim Kalicki, when they arrived, Mariama Umanka was then absolutely Germany's benchmark, and she and Kim Kalicki just arrived and just started winning stuff. I mean, right from day one. Medals, 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 medals. And Lara Nolte there on the left, Anela Skelton on the right. They are our new leaders. Wai Mingming of China, change of brake woman overnight, and that brings Tan Yingqi in behind her to make her 3rd ever World Cup start. Made her debut in Calgary in 2019. Her only other race was February 22 in St. Moritz. Both of those were with Yingqing. So it's only her 3rd race, having made her debut in the World Cup in 2019. She has done other races, just not in the World Cup. So 6:65 getaway. There we saw a good run from Yingqing to be in with a shout of the top 6. It's only 1100s out of the top 6. And this is already into the top 10, 11th best start for Y and Tan. And in the top 10 on the splits. So they're ahead of Cynthia Appia, Giada Andreuti and Bianca Ribi. And chasing their teammates. Ooh, little double tap there. Yingqing is currently in 9th place, and right behind her is Y, 1200s back. 400s ahead of Bianca Ribi. So there's a good little battle going on between those three, and they're not far away from 6th place. Margot Boch. Dennisman is there on the right-hand side, helping out with the coaching. He's really the driver coach for these Chinese athletes. A little rocking and rolling there, really high. Did she hit the woodwork? I think she probably did. And again here we saw a tap and then a skid into the other wall. Hits hard on the take-on. As he's asking the same question, did he hit the roof? Is she admitting it?
Late 15, 13, no good. A little bit catch mistakes, right?
Did you hit the roof? She didn't want to admit it. Now then, former winner, Alana Myers-Taylor, gold in 2015, bronze in 2012 as a driver, with Emily Renner behind her. Emily making her 5th World Cup start. She took bronze on her debut in Whistler 22 with Kaillie Humphries. And our Olympic bronze medalist in women's bobsleigh, one of her 4 Olympic medals in women's bob, not in monobob. That's another entire count. Alana Myers-Taylor here with both kids this week, or in fact this European tour. And they start 8th fastest, 6:57. Let's see what Alana can produce. We saw yesterday in the monobob that even though she didn't drive at all last year, and she was having her 2nd baby, she has still got what it takes. She's going to be a real challenge. Top 6 now, 1400s back only. 6th best speed, 1300s back. She's come a little tap and a skid, 18 to 19. Probably going to be 6th at the line. No, 4th! Tied with Lisa Bookfitz. Wow. Now, of all the drivers who've got knowledge here, I would rate Margot Boch as having most of all. Alana Myers-Taylor, 2nd most knowledge. She raced here in 2012, raced here in 2015. Okay, it's only her 3rd race weekend at this track. But nobody's done 3 race weekends at this track. I don't think even Lisa Bookfitz, as a brakewoman, has done 3 race weekends at this track. Only the coaches. And even then, not all of them. So there's Alana. I tell you what, juggling 2 young kids, preschool kids, is tough enough, never mind trying to be an athlete as well. Our 2nd debutante, we started with a debutante, Keisha Love, or 2 debutantes, Keisha Love and Azaria Hill, and we finished the first heat with 2 debutantes, Linda Wyszewski and Marika Zandeka for Poland. Now, we have seen them in action before. They raced in the World Championships in February in St. Moritz. And their male counterparts right behind them, watching from the start, helping out. Great to see Poland back with men and women's bobsleigh teams. 24-year-old Linda the driver, 28-year-old Marika, her brakewoman, making their first steps in the World Cup. Again, not a track that many know well. Skeleton comes here more often. Various different teams come here for training camps, but bobsleigh tends not to. That'll be on slightly more familiar territory, you imagine, when we get to Innsbruck next week. 10th best speed. It's looking good. This is a nice looking drive from Linda Wyszewski. Really nice lines. Now, they may have gone with a safe-ish and fairly benign runner setup, trimmed for control rather than speed. But that's not a bad looking first run. 62.29, Congratulations. They make their World Cup debut together. Off a 6.78 getaway. Little dab on the brakes too much, so they run up short. Whoops. Again, looking in 16, allowing the sled to rise and fall. Watch the rudder tip, see where she starts to steer. Just a little steer there, just to stop it rising too high, but brought it down a fraction too early, and that gives her the double tap. And again here, just a whisker early off 18, maybe tiny little rear end skid. They're all so minimal, but the gaps are tiny here. Well, there you go. Linda Wyszewski, and at the back of the sled, Marika Zandeka make their Women's Bob World Cup debut. So they'll drag the sled out of the way, get it into the scabbards, put it onto the open truck to take it back to the top, ready for the second heat. While Lara Nolte and Nella Schouten are already there, our leaders. Top three covered by 0.06 of a second. As tight here as it's likely to be in Innsbruck next week. It is Lara Nolte, Kim Kalicki and Keisha Love, the top three. Let's take a look at how they finished the first of our two heats then. 600s covering them. Lisa Buchwitz looking to try and make it an all-German podium, but Alana Myers-Taylor looking to try and put a second US sled in the top three maybe. Let's see how that works out. Not too far behind them, Melanie Hassler. Then Margot Boch leads the log jam outside the top six with Brianna Walker, Andrea Greku, Ying Ching, and then a little group further back, Wai Min Ming, Bianca Ribby, Cynthia Appia and Linda Wyszewski are battling, separated by just 100th, and Chiara Andreucci will be first off in our second and deciding heat. That will be at 10:30 local time, 9:30 GMT, which of course is 04:30 Eastern. We'll see you then. Till then, from the IBSF TV crew here in Laplagne, me Martin Haven, croaking goodbye. We'll see you in a little over an hour.